Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that sounds pretty simple on the surface, a strip of asphalt being laid in this incredibly remote, frozen valley. But here's the thing. This isn't just any road. It's actually reigniting a really dangerous conflict right at the crossroads of three nuclear powers: India, China, and Pakistan. So let's get into it.
So where this whole thing really kicks off is with this massive contrast. You've got India on one side, projecting this image of diplomacy, of a cooperative future. But then on the other side, the source material points out that China is taking some very direct action on the ground, and that one action, just building this one road, is what's lighting the fuse on a decades-old and super sensitive territorial dispute.
Okay, so what is actually at the heart of all this? Well, it's pretty straightforward. China is building some serious infrastructure in a valley that India claims is its own sovereign territory. And as you can imagine, Delhi's response has been, well, pretty strong. They've lodged a formal objection, basically warning that they reserve the right to take, and I'm quoting here, all necessary measures to protect their interests.
Now, to really get a grip on the stakes here, you have to understand exactly where this valley is. Because, like with so many of these geopolitical flashpoints, location, well, it's everything.
So we're talking about the Shaksgam Valley. It's also known as the Trans-Karakoram Tract. And this place is just a stretch of brutally high-altitude terrain. But as the source material really highlights, its critical importance isn't about the valley itself, but its neighbors. It's literally wedged right between other massive military flashpoints. You've got the Siachen Glacier on one side and Aksai Chin on the other. A really tough spot.
But to get why this construction today is causing such a huge uproar, we actually have to rewind the clock. We're going back more than 60 years. The source material traces the root of this whole mess back to a single agreement, and it's an agreement that India has always said was illegal right from the start.
And here's the number you need to remember: 5,180 square kilometers. That's a huge area, and that's exactly how much land in the Shaksgam Valley the source says Pakistan illegally, and I'm using their word here, gifted to China way back in 1963.
So this timeline really lays out the sequence of events, and it's pretty critical. First, in 1947, Pakistan occupies the region. Then fast forward to 1962, and a major border war erupts between India and China. That completely changes the power dynamics. And then, what happens almost immediately after that war? Yep, in 1963, Pakistan gifts a piece of that same territory it occupied to China. The source is pretty clear here. The timing of this whole thing is definitely not a coincidence.
And look, India's official position on this, it hasn't changed one bit in over 60 years. It's been rock solid. As this quote makes crystal clear, the view from New Delhi is really simple. You just can't legally give away something that was never yours in the first place. So in their eyes, that entire 1963 agreement is, and always has been, completely invalid.
Okay, but you might be asking, why does one road in such a desolate, super remote valley matter so much? Well, because, as the source makes really clear, its strategic and military significance is just immense. And, it's the technical details that really tell the story here. We're talking about an all-weather road, which is huge in that climate. It's already 75 kilometers long, and this is the crucial part. It's about 10 meters wide. Now, to put that in perspective, that's wide enough for two big military trucks, or even tanks, to pass each other comfortably. That is a logistical game-changer in this kind of terrain. So yeah, this isn't for tourism. The source really emphasizes that its purpose is clearly military, the rapid deployment and supply of Chinese troops. So how does this one road fundamentally change the military map for India? Well, for starters, it runs right alongside the Siachen Glacier, the world's highest battlefield. On top of that, controlling this valley gives you a direct shot to the strategic Karakoram Pass, and it gives you a commanding vantage point to watch any and all troop movements. It's a huge deal.
And this is what so brilliantly illustrates the strategic shift. Think about it. For decades, India's whole focus at Siachen was on the threat from Pakistan, coming from the south. But now, this new road just opens up a whole new northern axis. It basically allows China to apply pressure from the other side, potentially creating a two-front military situation on the world's highest battlefield. The game has completely changed.
Right. And it's at this point that the source kind of zooms out to look at the bigger picture. The argument they're making is that this road in Shaksgam, it isn't just some isolated incident. Nope, instead you should see it as a single data point in a much larger and frankly more troubling pattern of behavior.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because the argument shifts to a fundamental difference in, well, philosophy.
The source basically contends that while one side might look at a signed treaty and see a binding, sacred agreement, the other side might just see it as a temporary arrangement, something that's ultimately secondary to the cold, hard reality of power on the ground.
And to back this idea up, the source points to a whole history of agreements. Look at this, 5 major border agreements signed between 1993 and 2013. And just look at who is signing them. The seniority level just keeps escalating, from ministers to foreign ministers, all the way up to the prime minister and the premier. I mean, these weren't just some minor understandings. These were huge, comprehensive pacts signed at the highest possible levels of government, all designed for one thing, to prevent conflict.
And what happened? 2020, the Galwan clash. This is what so brilliantly illustrates the source's point. Despite nearly 30 years of these high-level agreements, you get this violent, fatal confrontation. It just shattered the peace and led to the first combat deaths on that border in over 4 decades. All those signed papers, they couldn't prevent it.
So this all leads to the really provocative question that the source leaves us with. If decades of diplomacy, all these layers of treaties can just be set aside, what truly defines a border anymore? The unsettling suggestion here is that when all those written pacts fail, maybe the only thing that actually draws the line on the map is pure power and strength on the ground.